Alaikum, welcome back, aspiring programmers. In this exciting installment of C programming course, we are going to learn about functions and modular functions. We will dive into the topic of functions in this video lecture. So let's see the topics for today's class. These are the topics for today's class: function and modular programming. Introduction to function in C. Basically, we first of all introduce ourselves to functions, and then we see function declarations and definition. What are the declaration of functions and definition? Then we see the passing arguments and return types, in which these topics are we have to understand these topics in passing arguments and returning values. So let's get started by opening our compiler. Okay, so let's erase it. Let's get started by we are, and let's start with introduction to functions in C. Introduction
goes by stands.
C. Okay. So we are going to, in this topic, we are going to see what are the functions, why do we need functions, and basically what is the working of function. So let's get started. Functions basically is a block of a board. It is a block of a board, and it is specific to something. And we for our is to make our program easier, we distribute, or we can say that we separate boards in small blocks. We call them functions, and code for something specific, for some specific application, or for some specific function. We separate that code in a smaller code, which we call function, and we name the function. For example, if we made a function for addition, so we made a function with addition, and we made functions for addition of two values. So we made a function of int addition, and this function basically do the addition of two values, two integer values. So we write a code for that function, and we have to write the code for that function. And then wherever in our program we want to add two integer, we just call that function, and it will add two numbers. So this is how functions work, and this is why we need function for our is. We split code into smaller pieces to look much easier and much more organized. So this is why we need functions. We have to use function, and function make us things very easy for us, and we don't have to write a code again and again if we want to set. For example, if I want to add something in starting, and I want that code again in the middle of my program. So what can I do? What should I do? I should write that code at the middle of my program? No, I just make a function of that program, and I just call that function wherever I want that program, but wherever I want that piece of code to be used. So this is about functions. So we are done with introduction to functions. Basically, it's an introduction to functions, and we are moving towards our next topic, which is function declaration and definition. What is function declaration and definition? You must remember, if you saw my previous videos, I always told that compilers actually work and execute programs in a line-wise manners. It executes program line by line. So what happened? If we have to define make functions, we mostly make functions actually out of int main. We made functions out of int main. So if we made a function after int main, so we have to declare it here. For example, I want to make a function of int addition. So here I made a function of addition. So this is how I declare it. I declared this function. This is called function declaration. This is actually declaration of function. This is function declaration. And here I am going to actually define that function. Function definition is basically when we are actually write the code in between the braces. That is called definition of function. Here we define here function, defining of function. This is a defining of function. Here we define the function, and if I want, for example, I made this function to add two values. So I write here parameter. This is parameter, or you can say arguments. So here I write int x and int y. So basically, here's some stay. Int y. So now this is the program. Int x int y. So basically, this is about definition of functions. Here we write whatever code we want to code. Here we write code, and this is called definition of function, or defining of function. So whatever we write in these braces, the code in the function is called defining of functions, and the declaring of function is right after the libraries before int main, and we use semicolon while declaring the function while declaration. So this is about definition and function definition and declaration and definition part. Now we are moving toward most important topic, and actually where all the understanding and all practical things of function have existed in this topic. This is passing arguments and returning values. So let's just as I said, where I write this in functions. We have actually 4 types of function. I split functions in 4 categories for better understanding. They are actually return type functions and no return type functions, which we call void functions. The no return type functions we called void functions. They are void type function, and there are return type functions with parameters or arguments, and void type functions with parameters and or arguments. Don't worry, I will explain it line by line separately each one, so it will be very easy. This is very easy concept of function. Don't worry, that is very easy. And now we started. So basically this is a function with a return type. Whenever we made a function with any data type that we learned so far, int, float, and any data type, int, float, char, or you can say doubles, these data types, or whatever any data type, because data types have some values or some variables or some letters that we have written it. So basically, whenever we made a function with any data type, so it is that function is called to be return type function. That is return type function. So basically, this is a return type function. So return type function. So we have to first understand what is return type function only with no parameters. There is no parameter actually existed right now. We are understanding with no parameters. So we have to first understand this with no parameter. Return type function only, there is no parameter. Okay. So if we have to understand function with no parameters, what we have to do? We write inside it int x and into y. Here we are going to see print f enter enter x value, and here we write scanner and percentage text and %d, and here we write x. we copy this for again for y. Okay, we can actually do this for from array also to look more professional and to increase our logical thinking. We can use array. So this is int x and y, and there we write it. Yes, we write it correctly, and here we write y. So what we are doing is that now we are going to use return type. What we are doing, return type. In return time, we can write this x plus y. This statement is right, but we can also do that. Here. Sum is equal to x plus y, and then we return simply some variable. So this is how it can also work, but we for our case we use this return statement. So now we are going to, this is actually a write program. This is all write program, so we have to run this program. There is an error. Oh, I lose a capital B. Now there is no error. We can tell where I also use what I'm doing. Now there is no error. So what? I write a code in function, but there is nothing on our console screen. Why? Because we write a code in a function that is global, that is out of int main. As we talked earlier in earlier videos, in starting videos, that int main is the entry point of function. If we don't link this code to the int main, so how can it gonna be executed? So what we have to do to make it executed, we have to call that function. To call the function of return type, what we do, we made for example, here is the function of return type int. So we made a variable int sum here, and we write sum is equal to addition, and here we call this. Now we are going to print app. Okay, sum is equal to %. Here we write sum backslash. Now we also have to use backslash. So now actually we are going to execute this program. So here we write, for example, 2, and here we write 5. So we got the answer 7. Sum is equal to 7. So we are using function for this addition, and wherever I want to add any two numbers, I just simply call this program, this function, and it will do addition for two numbers, for two integer numbers. So basically it is an integer type function that returns the integer type value. So it is a return type function, and we can change any data type there according to the programs, according to the code that we written in the program. For example, if we want to add in float values, so we write here float. We made a function of float type. Any data type function is called to be return type. So basically we use return type functions mainly when we want to return some value, and we want an answer in some value type thing. So we use return type functions. So we are moving towards our next function, that is, we do that return type functions. We understand the concepts of return type functions and what kind of when we use return type function, when we have to some value, when we have to give some value in return. For example, in addition we have to give or return sum. So we use return type function, and we can use any data type. If we want to addition in float, we can make a function of float type. So now we are moving towards our void function, which is a no return type function. This is a function which have no return type actually. So we are going to understand void functions. So void function is basically void function is we use mostly for print any statement, where we want to print any message on console screen. So we use void function. For example, we write here message we made a function for message, and here we write enter. And here we write something printf. We can use this for void function for addition also. We can use this code in void function. That also works, because that also works. But what we have to do, it will not return value. It will not return that value. What it has done, we have to print that answer, that something, that sum is equal to x plus y. We have to make a variable in which we store the sum of x and y, and then print that variable of sum in this function. Then it is all right. It has no value to return, because it prints the ID is sum that the function calculated in the function. So we don't have to return anything. But mostly we use void function for something that is for printing messages, for specific messages and things that we don't have to return to the intimate. For example, we use here return type function because in addition, because if maybe we have to use this sum in some other code in our int main. For example, I use this value of sum to multiply any number. I made a logic that. So then we use this return type function, because maybe we have to use that value in our int main. So we can do that. But when I have to simply just show the addition, I can also do that with the void function. Okay, so now we write here. We got a message. We got a message. Here we write that. Here we are going to backslash n. But here is a problem. One problem that you don't, I think many of you identify maybe. So the problem, as mentioned in comments, if you identified this problem before. So here's a problem that we don't declare that function. We have to declare that function first. So what we are going to do, we have to declare this function void message. There is the declaration of void function.
Okay, now we have to
call that function. Calling void function. Now we are going to call this function. Return type functions, we have to call them in some variable to store the value. But in void type function, there are missing no values or nothing to return that we have to store in something. There is nothing to return that we have to store something. If void function is playing in some addition, it will just show the answer of addition. It will calculate the addition and it will not return the value to the int main. It just show the answer. So it has nothing to return. It is a no return type function. Basically, void function is no return type function. So we can call it just by writing their name in our program.
So we just call him by writing their name.
You don't have to store any variable,
because it has nothing to store
in any variable, because it is a no return type function. So let's execute this program. It will execute first our addition function. Here I write 1, here I write 2, and we got sum is equal to 3, and then we got a print our message. We got a message.
We got a message.
We got a message is printed on our console screen because we called that function. We called that void function here.
It print the message.
So it print the message after calling this function.
So this is about
void functions with no parameters and arguments. Now we are moving towards return type functions with parameters and arguments.
Let's see a return type function in a parameter with the parameters, or you can say arguments. Both are correct words to use. So let's change this function to square. We are going to make this function for a square. So square function. So now we are going to make this function with parameters involving we are involving parameters and arguments, or you can say arguments. I use parameters word. Parameters. I guess this is the right spelling that I used here. Yeah, it is. So here I write parameters in these braces. We have, for example, I have to got one any number of which square is calculated in this function. So I write here int num. Num is a variable in which we got a value of any number. So here we are going to write so here we write simply that return num, because this is function for num, and here we write int num. We have to write the same parameters in this at the defining functions and at the declaration of function. We have to write exactly same thing, otherwise the compiler will give the error. So we are going to execute this program. We have to erase this program, otherwise we have to execute them first. So what we are going to do here, we made a variable int sqr. Sqr is equal to square. Here we write this, and here we write printf, where we write printf, sorry, so here we write printf square is equal to %d, and here we write sqr. So now what we have to do, we have to pass a number in these braces. For example, I want a square of 5, so I have to pass the argument or parameter that this variable is going to hold the value. This value is going to hold by this parameter, by this variable num, and then it will execute this program by using this value, on the basis of this value. So it will get that value at the time of calling. We have to give the values at the time of calling. So this is called passing the arguments, or passing the values. We passing the values in parameter. In a parameter. So now we are going to see our answer should be, console screen should print 25. So let's see. Yeah, square is equal to 25. We got an answer. How we got it? We explained it. This is a simple code for square of a function. We just write a code to square for a square of a value that is passed from int main, which is 5 right now, or we can here is an interesting thing, we can take that value from user also. Printf made up, for example, we made one more variable called n, and we write here printf enter value for square. So here we are going to see interesting thing, %d, and here we are going to write, and here we will pass the variable that has the value of n, that has the value. Okay, so let's run this program. We are going to pass, for example, 4, and we got the answer 16. There is one thing that is important, which is important, is that the data type of which type of argument or parameter that you passed in a function must be same to this variable data type. For like the data type of num is int, so and the data type of n is also int. So the variable that we passed in our in which the value of num we pass to num is integer type, so we have to make that clear. N is also integer type variable. So basically this is about return type function with parameters. So we are going to move on our last type, which is void functions with parameter.
Let's see a return type function in a parameter. With the parameters, or you can say arguments, both are correct words to use. So let's change this function to square. We are going to make this function for square. So square function. So now we are going to make this function with parameters involving we are involving parameters and arguments, or you can say arguments. I use parameters word. Those. I guess this is the right spelling that I used here. Yeah, it is.
So
here I write parameters in these braces. We have, for example, I have to got one any number of which square is calculated in this function. So I write here int num. Num is a variable in which we got a value of any number. So here we are going to write so here we write simply that return num, because this is function for num, and here we write int no. We have to write the same parameters in this at defining functions and at the declaration of function. We have to write exactly same thing. Otherwise the compiler will give the error. So we are going to execute this program. We have to erase this program, otherwise we have to execute them first. What we are going to do here, we made a variable int sqr. Sqr is equal to square. Here we write this, and here we write print f, where we write print f. Sorry. So here we write print f. Square is equal to %d, and here we write SQR. So now what we have to do, we have to pass a number in these braces. For example, I want a square of 5. So I have to pass the argument or parameter that this variable is going to hold the value. This value is going to hold by this parameter, by this variable now, and then it will execute this program by using this value, on the basis of this value. So it will get that value at the time of calling. We have to give the values at the time of calling. So this is called passing the arguments, of passing the values. We passing the values in parameters. In a parameter. So now we are going to see our answer should be console stage should print 25. So let's see. Yeah, square is equal to 25. We got an answer. How we got it? We explained it.
This is a simple code.
For square of a function. We just make a write a code to square of value that is passed from
int main.
int main, which is 5 right now, or we can here is an interesting thing, we can take that value from user. Also printf made up, for example, we made one more variable for the n, and we write here printf enter value for square. So here we are going to see interesting thing for %d, and here we are for,
and here we pass the variable
and here we pass the variable
that has the value of
that
n.
has the value of n. It has the value.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's
so
run this program.
let's run this program. We are going to pass, for
and
example,
we got
4,
the answer 16.
and we got the answer 16.
There is one thing that is important.
There is
which
one thing that is
that
important, which is important, is that
the data type of which
the data type of which type of
argument
argument or parameter that you have that you passed in a function must be same to this variable data type. For
the data type of
like
num is
the
int,
data type of num is int,
so and the data type of
so
n
and the
is
data type
also
of
int.
n is
So
also
that
int.
variable that we
So that
passed
variable
in our,
that we passed in
which
our
the value
in which the value
of num
of
we
num
pass to
we
num
we pass
is
to
integer
num
type, so we
is
have
integer
to make
type,
that
so we
clear,
have to
and is
make that
also
clear,
integer type
and is
variable.
also an integer type variable.
So basically this is about
So basically this is about return type function with parameters.
So we are going to
So we are going to
now we are going to move
now we are going to
type,
move
which is
on our last
void
type,
functions
which
with
is
parameter.
void functions with parameter. So let's see void function with parameters in arguments or arguments. So now we are going to develop this function. Also this from int main. Yes. So this is a void function to make this comment. Yes, this is a void function, and for example in this void function we want to take some, we want to write a message with some arguments. For example, we want to take some argument from int, not int, we are using a char and char a. For example, we are using char a. And here we write a condition something. Trailing. So here we write char a, and here we write use if condition. If a is equal to y means yes, we have to use these for char values, and we are going to use our logical operator or here for capital Y. Maybe the answer is capital Y. Okay, so it will print this message. We got the answer. And else in else statement it will print no message. So now we are going to execute this program by calling this program here message, and we just have to call by writing the name, but we have to pass the variable the argument. We have to pass the argument, or you can say parameter. I'm passing and or go ring.
So here we write,
for example, we write by. Now we are going to execute this program, and
here is a printed.
We got a message. Why it is printed? Because we pass y
from int main,
from int main, then
the value
the value
this y is received by a
variable
variable
with the char type variable, which can
hold that
variable y
because it is a
because it is a char type variable, and then it will came into this program, and it will see this code. If code, it verifies the condition is true, and it prints that message. For example, if we write something else rather than y here, for example t, or for example n, we are using n. So what's gonna happen? So let's see that. No message, which means else statement is printed here. So as program is executed
because
condition is false here. Now we see one more thing. We are going to use capital Y. We see this because we put a condition with logical OR operator.
the condition is true
for both small y and capital Y. So let's see.
Condition is true for
Yeah,
both.
condition is true for both.
We got a message
We got a message
printed.
is printed.
So this is about
This is all about functions. This is about void functions with return type statement.
So we have
Void functions with
with return type, sorry.
I mean void functions with parameters. With parameters. Basically void functions are no return type functions.
So this is all about functions.
So this is all about
We use
functions.
for our
We use
A's.
function for our A's. For example, if we want to make a calculator,
So what we can do is
simply we can just make a function of every
for every
arithmetic operation, for the addition, subtraction, multiplication, square, and use a switch statement. We can use a switch statement in int main, and in every case we put one of functions, and we give the choice to the user. If a user wants to do addition, he will press case 1 or case 2, and according to cases there is a restricted functions. You can apply the arithmetic operations according to the case wise. For example, I want to execute addition, I can press 1, and the addition function is called in case 1, and then the addition is executed. So this is about the application of functions. Function are very full. Basically, programming consists on functions. C programming is basically all about function. If I talk about C programs, what we do in C programs, we made our functions, and then we call that program in our int main. Int main is also this int main is also function.
Here we have to write because it is
an int type. That's why we write here int 0 because it is int type. This is also a function. It is an entry point. Main function is an entry point. We know that, but it is also a kind of function.
What we have to do,
So what we have to do, we'll have to choose return 0 for better result, for better working of compiler. And this is about all about functions and modular programs. So I will again advise you, as always, do practice as much as you can. Build your logical thinking, because practice is the only way to build your logical thinking and hands-on programming. You should watch. You can watch my previous tutorials if you don't have idea of my previous topics, or if you are new to my profile of my channel. So yes, this is all about programming.
Search on Google, research by
yourself, do practice questions, solve practice question, build your logical thinking, and keep practicing, keep learning. I will see you soon. Happy coding.